that you're such an advocate for indoor soccer. And I love your pictures with Julie V, because I grew up with that. I grew up.
We're going to start.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Hi, my name is Greg Suddy on Soccer, and I am so stoked to be here with Tom Traxler. He is the Central Florida Crusaders general manager and head coach currently, but this guy has so much history in the area of Central Florida and so much to talk about of his soccer story. Tom, thank you so much for joining us.
No, listen, this is a pleasure for me, because when I first got into NISL, I was turned on to what you were doing, and I started tuning in, listening, watching, and you were corresponding with me after games, and I just thought, man, this guy's cool, because you came up the same time probably as I did with soccer in the United States,
right.
and you're such an advocate for indoor soccer. And I loved indoor soccer before, but now being a part of it, man, it's just in my blood. So this is fun for me too. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so it is, and it is. I mean, my initial so as a young athlete, I played American football. I didn't play soccer. I played American football for about 10 years. But I got turned on to the San Diego Sockers because the San Diego Padres and the San Diego Chargers were just dropping the ball all the time. And the San Diego Sockers were stepping up to the plate and making it happen. So I started following the San Diego Sockers back in 1979. And this was, of course, before they started playing indoors. They were a respectable team. They were beaten by the Cosmos, a couple of times. There were some pretty classic games between the Tampa Bay Rowdies as well.
79, I think it was 78, 79. They went to a mini game in Tampa.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking like, I think it was Gert Wieserkowski and Julie V and Gene Wilrich. And I mean, these names come just flooding back into my head. I mean, and that was one of the thrills for me, because I'm a soccer geek. I mean, 1975, I'm around when the Tampa Bay Rowdies are coming to Tampa. I'm from Tampa. So for me to like be in MASL and then like be coaching in a game against the San Diego Sockers, a team that I went to watch as a kid,
Right.
or the Baltimore Blast or the Dallas or Kansas City Comets. Like, I'm a geek. I'm like, this is so cool for me. Like, I would pinch myself and go, yeah, I'm really coaching against the San Diego Sockers. So what a thrill that was for me, honestly.
Yeah, Tom. So let's roll this back a little. Let's roll this time card back a little bit. As a young man growing up, did you grow up in Central Florida? Is this your hometown?
I grew up
area?
in Tampa. Actually, Tampa, Florida is where I grew up, and I migrated to Orlando for work. It was the theme park industry that brought me here first.
Gotcha.
I thought I had finished my soccer journey, and I was branching out into. I was always in entertainment, and so I was brought into. I changed my job, and I came into the entertainment world in an administrative capacity with Universal Studios. And then when I got laid off, it branched me back into soccer. It's like the mob. You can't get out. It's always going to pull you back in. But yeah, I grew up in Tampa watching the Rowdies. My grandparents were from England, so I had a background with soccer, and I'd watch in England. So from the time I was really, really young, and followed through with the Rowdies, and then the NASL. And then when that folded, I started watching, like everybody else had to that point, the MISL and the indoor game.
Right.
Right. I ended up getting a job. I ended up getting a job with the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and I worked there. And I worked closely with the team in an administrative capacity. And because I played a lot of times during the preseason, they'd let me join in. So I'd get the thrill of playing alongside Rodney Marsh, Steve Wegerle, Winston DeBose, guys that I grew up watching. And
Harry Vanderbeck.
Harry Vanderbeck. In fact, we still talk to this day. And they would, back in that day, it was the American Professional, APSL, the American Professional Soccer League. So players would have to play in 2 leagues. They'd have to go outdoor to indoor. So they'd go off and play indoor. So Perry would head off to Wichita.
Right.
And, other players would go to different teams. And then when that season ended, they'd all come back to playing outdoor again.
Yep.
So I'd get to watch and never really understood indoor soccer as much. I'd watch it, never appreciate it like it did when I got involved. But then I was coaching with a club called the Clearwater Chargers. Got a chance to work alongside Steve Highway, who was a player I watched for Liverpool, Roy McCrowan, lots of ex-pros that were there. And then I moved. Like I said, I moved to Orlando, got out of coaching. I wasn't doing anything. And then the 9/11 hit. My job got dissolved, and I got picked up as a director of coaching here in Orlando at a club called FC America. Met my now business partners because I was coaching their kids. We started a soccer store, United World Soccer.
Right.
I started coaching high school soccer.
Right.
Really enjoyed getting back involved in the game again.
Right.
And then I took my entertainment background. I started a radio show, and it was a show about it was just a soccer radio show. It was on once a week on sports radio here in Orlando. We'd talk Premier League, we'd talk U.S. national team, we'd talk some of the South American leagues, so we were talking lots of different leagues. And then Orlando City comes to town.
Right.
And because they knew I did this, I started jumping in on their game broadcasts. So in the USL, I became a broadcast analyst on their USL games.
Very cool.
And MLS comes along, and it was Brett Lashbrook, who now owns he and his family own the Las Vegas Lights. And excuse me, my dog. I'm having my house painted, and my dogs are going nuts.
You should bring your puppy up. You should hold your puppy up and introduce him.
I would, but if I brought Charlie up, he's like a piranha. He would bite me. He doesn't like to be
Okay.
up, so I don't.
I have a cat. I have a cat like that.
I just tell him to be quiet, and then sometimes when I tell him no, he growls at me. So
I have a cat like that.
Did you?
In fact, I got it. Look at that.
Oh wow, a cat? What kind of cat? Yeah, big cat.
Well, he's
a tiger. What do you got?
I know. Are you kidding me? He's a Siamese. He gets. I know, man.
Well, he was upset with you.
He wasn't really happy with me.
So MLS comes in, and Brett Lashbrook, who now owns the Las Vegas Lights, he was the CEO at the time of Orlando City. Pulls me, he goes, "How would you like to be the voice of Orlando City?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, "I love it." So I started doing television for Orlando City in MLS, and calling games for getting to rub elbows and talk with guys like Kaká, and you're like seeing him on a daily basis. It's just crazy. And then 2018 comes, and a gentleman comes to town named Chris Kokalis, and he was relocating an indoor team here, and he wanted to pick my brain about Orlando, and he didn't really listen to me all as much as he should have. He still would have been here if he did, but he didn't. Right. But he put a team here, and he didn't want to coach. He asked me if I wanted to coach, and I'm like, all right, I can coach. I know I can coach soccer, but indoor soccer, I've never, if you don't mind me learning on the fly, I'll be glad to. So he made me a coach. I got in. I inherited a roster of really good players.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was the one that held them back.
I remember that. Yeah.
I learned a lot. And I mean, we didn't have a dumpster fire first season. I think we won like 9 games. But I inherited such a roster. I mean, what a thrill it was to work with some of these guys, and they were just great guys. And a lot of them are still in the league. I still watch them and communicate with some of them. Peter Sliwa came in and was my assistant coach. Hit it off with the big bear. He's Peter's he's awesome. He's incredible. I love Peter. We still talk. Kidding. And sometimes Chris would interfere. I think if Peter and I were let coach, because once I really started to understand and get going, I'll never forget playing Kansas City, and they had Togba, and they had flyers. They in transition, they were so quick. And Chris always wanted this press, and I'm like, no, man, we can't press them because they just get behind us too easy. Sure enough, there we go. They get behind us. I'm going, I told you, we can't press. Yep. We don't want to press these guys. So I was learning. We would have won a lot more games, but getting a chance to work with, you know, Gordy Gerson,
Yeah.
Mario Alvarez,
Yeah.
Yoshio Sandoval. What an
Yeah.
underrated player he is, honestly. And a great young man. You know, Richard Schmerman. In fact, yeah, I was just watching St. Louis, Baltimore, and I happened to glance away.
Yep.
And they said Schmerman with the goal, and they made the call, and I'm like, oh, I missed it, and then I rewound it, and he scored from a top of arc. I said I should have known. That's how he scored. I mean, he's got an absolute cannon on his left foot. I mean, if he hit you close range with a cannon in the head, you'd be dead. I mean, it's just that hard. In fact, that year we had Derek Huffman, and I love Huff.
Right.
For those, I know he's
I do too.
this
No, I do too.
You know, controversial figure, but I got along with him. I loved him. I understand what he's about. Good young man. But he had a cannon on his right, so we'd set up right and left on top of arcs. And if you set your wall to the right, Schmerman was going to come blast it left. If you set your wall to the left, then Huffman was going to come along and smash it right. And we scored quite a few goals doing that. So, but yeah, Derek Huffman, Peter was in goal. I think I mentioned Gordy Gerson, of course. I love Gordy. Gordy had a great year, scored a lot of goals. Probably stayed on the floor a little longer than what he should. He knows this. And we never counted the plus minus, but I'll tell you what, the guy knows how to score goals. Gordy is just a pure goal scorer and a great guy to work with. And
he's very charismatic as well. I mean, he's a fun guy to talk to. He's easy to talk to. And I want to share this with you guys that are watching on YouTube. I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but I just recently did study on soccer with Derek Huffman, and Derek suggested after we got off. So first off, you have to understand there was a little bit of controversy between he and I. It was painted by other people. It wasn't really between me and him, but it was painted by other people that sort of made this thing. And he and I spoke privately and sort of cleared that up. And when I had him on study on soccer, I guess a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, after we got off, he suggested that we do something on a weekly basis and call it Sutton Huff or Huff and Sut or
Huff and Sut. You know what? He's just a good guy.
I know. Absolutely.
He relishes that role, though. He relishes
No, I get it.
I think when people go and they show up to boom, I think he loves it.
I agree.
He loves it, and he plays that role so well. But he's probably one of the most misunderstood guys, and good player. He's a good player. Strong,
an outstanding player.
Smart. Just I enjoyed working with Derek. I really did. But no, we had some really good players, and then we had the Orlando City guys. I brought in some Orlando City players.
That's right. I remember that.
Who had to learn indoor soccer. And that's what I try to tell people now. I'm like, when we bring in players for the Crusaders that have never played indoor soccer before, I go, okay, here's what's going to happen. And we bring in a lot of young players now. We bring in a lot of college guys, college girls. And I said, we're going to bring you in and we're going to deconstruct you as a player and rebuild you as an indoor player. Because everything changes. So much stuff changes. Like I call outdoor soccer the beautiful game, but indoor soccer is the fun game.
There you go. That's good. I like that.
And they're not alike. They're two different sports. They really are. I know. I'm like, don't come thinking this is outdoor soccer in any way, shape, or form. It's not. And that's okay. Right. That's okay. It doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be. The uniform should be like loud and colorful and embrace the fact that you're different than the outdoor game. Embrace it. Love it.
Absolutely.
That's what indoor soccer is all about. And I'm trying to tell players the use of boards. So you're passing to no one. In outdoor soccer, you never pass to no one, but in indoor, you're using the boards, and that's creating angles, and it's creating opportunities for other players. Wallace scorers, you look at all those. Using the sole of your foot. You're not going to use the sole of your foot in outdoor because you got cleats on. You got the studs on the bottom of your boots. So, but here you got flat surfaces, and you're gonna use your sole delays, your sole rolls. You're gonna take it with the sole. So using those futsal skills becomes very important. Shifting. Wow, shifting. Telling an MLS player that you're going to be on for a minute, and they look at you like you're insane. I play 90 minutes. Like, what are you talking about? Right. And our first game ever with the Seawolves, we played the Brazil mini football team, and I'll never forget Luke Bowden coming off, and
Okay.
he is breathing through every orifice in his body. I mean, he's
Wow.
breathing out his ears, his nose, his mouth. I mean,
Wow.
and he looked at me and he goes, I get it. I get the 1 minute. I understand now. Because you can't. I mean, look, if you're meant to stay on for long shifts, then everybody do it, right? But you're shifting and learning how to shift, teaching them how to shift, so that one, you don't get caught with six attacker, six man on the floor.
Right.
Or,
That's right.
And then also how to take advantage of somebody who is shifting badly and catching him in a counter situation. So learning that is fun. So, I just find it so fascinating to learn indoor and to teach new players like indoor soccer. And like I told you and I were talking, and I tell them, I said, they go, oh, well, I've played indoor soccer. I said, have you played indoor soccer or have you played soccer indoors? Because there's a difference. A lot of people go play in an indoor facility, but they're playing soccer indoors. They're not yet playing indoor soccer.
Right. And it is a different sport. It's a different sport. Beach soccer is a different sport. I mean, these varieties of the game. I mean, the common area is, of course, you can't use your hands and you got to use your feet, and you got to score at the opposing goal. But other than that, I mean, the surface area, the size of the venue, the fact that you have boards or no boards like in futsal. I mean, futsal is another one, because futsal, you're playing on a hard surface. You don't have the resistance of the turf or the rug, whatever.
Yeah,
you have indoors. It's a hard surface. And so all of these varieties of soccer have their own nuances, and they're all beautiful within their nuances. And I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it. It's taken me a little bit of time to appreciate futsal, but beach soccer is so completely different, because there's no dribbling in beach soccer.
No, you can't. It's all up in the air.
It's all passing.
You're volleying.
Yeah.
Very different.
Right.
But indoor soccer, I mean, I watch futsal because there's a lot of pattern movements that you can incorporate. Obviously, you have to add the extra player in, but then the boards and the glass change the game. Boards and glass change everything.
Everything. I mean, like you say, you're able to pass to nobody in order to use the rebound off the boards to get to a player. The Wallace Scora concept and all of that. I mean, that is highly unique to indoor soccer, American indoor soccer. And I want to emphasize that term because it's not accepted around the world. I mean, the game that we play as indoor soccer is, I mean, for instance, our national team plays mini football, 6-a-side on an outdoor field without boards. So there is at least little to no transition from our American indoor soccer game overseas. Do you see that ever changing?
I don't want to call them snobs. I think they're purists. I mean, they have their version of soccer, and I'd love for them to try, because again, it's a different sport. It is. It's soccer, but it's different, but it's exciting. You take someone who's never been, and I had several people come to when I was in NASL. I had a lot of people come to their very first ever indoor game, and they didn't know what to expect. They had no expectation of anything, but their expectation in their mind was dummied down because they're used to seeing MLS. So they were thinking like if you go to your local indoor soccer facility,
right.
This is like their mindset. And then they see these guys are serious professionals. Like they are players. They are good players.
That's right.
And they walk away going, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
They go, this was great. And they all go, I'm coming back. And, sometimes we did. I mean, obviously we didn't, the Seawolves, we lost more than we won. But, when you're in indoor soccer, if you're losing going into the fourth quarter, and I think it was against St. Louis, and I think it was my second season, and we were down, I want to say we were down 7-4 going into the fourth quarter. And we started coming back. 7-5, 7-6. Then they scored and made it 8-6. St. Louis did. And then the last 2 minutes, we got the sixth attacker on, and shots are getting peppered, and Paolo's making saves, and people are out of their seats and they're screaming, and we end up losing 8-7. And I'll never forget fans coming going, that was great. They go, oh my God, that was so much fun. And we didn't even win.
Right.
We didn't even win. So
Right.
it just shows how much you can get caught up in and how much fun indoor soccer is. And it's such a marketable product. And that's the one thing I look at. It is a real marketable product. And I cannot believe that it's not on television, proper television, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News. So it has a place. And I tell you, it has an audience.
Yeah, we're gonna move the conversation in that direction here in a minute. I want to say though, it's really interesting because it took me a little bit of time to learn it, but I remember being able to, truly appreciate an outdoor game that ended at 1-0,
Mm-hmm.
and I really learned. It took me a little bit of time to learn and appreciate that, but it doesn't take that kind of time for your average American sports fan that is coming from the NFL or the NBA or the NHL or Major League Baseball to watch an indoor soccer game and understand the nuances of the game. It doesn't take that much understanding of the game to understand the nuances of the game, because there's always a scoring, and that's the excitement of the sport. There's always scoring. And even if it's not, and see, this is another thing, even if it's a 4-2 game or a 3-1 game, which are rare, but even when those happen, there's so much excitement because you've got the goalie standing on his head. You've got all kinds of shots that are binging off the boards. I mean, it's a game that really appeals to the American soccer or the American sports fan, I think. And to your point, I mean, it is amazing. So let's that there's not more coverage.
And it's built for TV. It's built for television.
It is. It's absolutely built for television.
You have your media timeouts inside your quarters. You've got your end of quarter breaks. You got halftime. I mean, the inventory there to sell that product to sponsors is like there's plenty of inventory there to work with, and it's just a sport built for television.
So I have, and I've shared this before. Some people probably know it, others maybe not. But I mean, I've been pretty outspoken about some of my opinions as to what has happened. There, and it's a multitude of things that has happened since the heyday of the MISL. I think the most argumentative or arguable is the word concept is, of course, back in that time, all of the best players that were playing soccer in America were playing MISL soccer. There was no NASL anymore. There was no MLS yet. So all of the best soccer players in America were playing MISL soccer at that time, and it was thriving and going crazy and going nuts. Sold out crowds. In some cases, in some markets, beating NBA or NHL teams that were sharing the same venue in the same city. I mean, it was just going crazy.
What? I had to look this up, but in 1982, when the Sockers won the indoor championship for NASL, the top attended game that year was Tampa Bay played the Chicago Sting in Chicago. 19,398 people.
Wow.
Close to 20,000 people went to this game. And I remember Dallas Sidekick games in Reunion Arena drawing 15, 16, 17. The Baltimore Blast, the San Diego, Kansas City Comets, Wichita Wings, Los Angeles Lasers. They were drawing crowds, and it was the only game in town. It was the APSL existed, which was like the kind of the bridge in outdoor professional soccer, but they were playing games in high school stadiums. I mean, it wasn't like what the NASL was at all. So the focus got shifted. MISL and indoor soccer was the only thing that was going for us.
Right, because a lot, and you're right. I mean, in a lot of cases, the NASL, in some cases, even during its heyday, in some markets, were not able to play outside of a college venue. They weren't playing in, football, NFL football stadiums like the Cosmos were or the Sockers were. Even though a lot of them were playing in the smaller venues. But then the MISL shows up and they're playing in the same venue as the NHL. They're playing on the same in the same location as the NHL is playing, and not in some in some rec center's ice rink covered with a rug. I mean, they were serious venues and they were packing them in. So so when the NASL when the MISL folded, um, that's when all had the NPSL, you had the CISL. For a while, there was the WISL, which was the World Indoor Soccer League, as opposed to the Western Indoor Soccer League that's operating up in the Northwest right now. But all of these, that's when all of these different soccer leagues started flying all over the place. Do you have any insight, opinion, or interaction ideas about why, when that happened, it happened the way it did, as opposed to just, okay, the MISL folded, let's all be together and do the same thing as one group going forward instead of splitting up?
I really don't have any insight into that era of indoor soccer in terms of why, as a business, it suddenly stopped. But you could probably put your finger on the fact that suddenly the World Cup starts coming to the United States in 1994,
Sure.
which spawned MLS and a whole push toward outdoor soccer. And now MLS is what MLS is, and as a soccer fan, I'm thrilled that we have a thriving
absolutely
league that's going on for outdoor. I now turn my attention to going, how can I help to grow and establish indoor soccer? Because I really do believe in the ability for indoor soccer to have a place in the American sports landscape.
I agree.
I've seen it. I've seen how much fun it is for people. And it's like anything else, Greg. It takes money. Honestly, it takes money. Things like, and I'll use my experience with the Orlando Seawolves. The gentleman who was the owner didn't have anywhere close to deep enough pockets to do the things correctly that you have to do to run a professional organization.
Yeah.
And I go, how much money do you have to put to marketing? If you can't put money to marketing,
right.
What are you doing? If you drive through, I guarantee if you drive through San Diego and it's Padres season, or I wanted to say the Chargers, but I always still call them the San Diego Chargers.
I do too.
But it's it's Padres season, and I'll guarantee you with the new team, the MLS team coming, you see billboards. I guarantee you see billboards in town for the Padres. I guarantee it.
Right.
There's television commercials. There's radio ads. So if I go into Tampa or I'm in Orlando, I'll see billboards for Orlando City. I'll see billboards for the Orlando Magic. I'll see billboards for the Orlando Solar Bears, which is the AHL, the hockey team.
Wow.
If they have to do billboards, why doesn't an indoor soccer team have to do billboards? And that's what I was telling Chris. Why aren't you on billboards? Why don't you have radio ads? Why don't you have television commercials?
Right.
He was just relying on this little social media campaign on Facebook, and I'm like, that's not gonna cut it. And and then he puts it way out in Kissimmee, which is not in Orlando, and it's a drive to get to. And if it's a certain time of day, if you play a Friday night game at 7:00, people are struggling to get out there on time, and it's just too far away. And now you have the added thing that nobody knows you're there because you're not marketing. Marketing is the biggest thing I would tell any team. You have to put proper money into marketing your product.
Right. And even things that would amount to be free advertising, like sports talk radio. I mean, sports talk radio, the people that are behind it are talking the NFL or Major League Baseball or NHL or NBA or whatever. And here in San Diego, it's really frustrating because not so much this last year it kind of stopped, but the San Diego the LA Chargers, the San Diego LA Chargers, they were the conversation 2.5, 3 years after they were in Los Angeles. They weren't even in San Diego anymore, and they were still the conversation on sports talk radio during that part of the year. And I mean, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I lost interest. I mean, I don't even follow. I mean, I follow the NFL only because I listen to sports talk radio. I don't listen to the NFL. I don't follow the NFL. I don't watch the games. My whole thing is strictly really in Major Arena Soccer League and the indoor soccer leagues.
And that's why I'm here, because you do. That's what I love about you. You're such an advocate, staunch advocate for indoor soccer.
I love the game. I absolutely love the game, and
there's a lot to love, right?
There is, and it's one of those things. It's like you're saying. It's one of those things that you know, you take somebody to the game, and if they've never been there before, they're going to fall in love with it. If they're an athlete, if they're a sporting fan, if they're a fan of sports, you know, if you like the Olympics, if you like watching ski jumping on the Olympics, having never been on skis before in your life, then you're going to come to an indoor soccer game, having never watched a soccer game in your life, and you're going to appreciate the athletics and the skill and the speed and what's going on in the game.
And here's the thing. So Kansas City, right? And they're leading the attendance. And I think it's Roth.
Yeah,
his last name is Roth. Brian Roth, I think.
Yeah, Brian Roth.
That guy is doing a great job.
Absolutely.
That's the first guy. If I was to start a franchise in Orlando, and you never know, I'm calling because I want to know, one, can I steal them? And two, what are you doing? Because look, if you go, and I think and I forget the name of it now. When I was there, it was the something Daimler Arena. It was perfect size. It was perfect size.
Daimler Arena.
Yeah, it was perfect size for indoor soccer. Perfect.
Exactly.
It was a great arena.
It is.
Still is. It's a great arena. Now, so when I was there, they were putting in, 1,000, 1,500 people. You go to their first game and it's sold out. Sold out. Can't get a seat.
Yep.
If you're a fan and you walk in that, you're going, wow.
Yep.
I'm at an event. I'm at something.
Right.
And you go,
that's right.
I'm coming back.
That's right.
So the big key is, and that's what I told the guys with the current league I'm in. Like, you got to do everything you can to get your product out in front of people, which is marketing. You have to market it, but pack your house, because it paints a picture to a sports fan. You know, right. if they're new and they come in and they go 5, 6, 7, 8,000, and it looks packed and full, they're like, what's going on here? And then. Right. But then, because you got that, now you can start marketing, right? Because now you've got how many eyeballs on your product. So when you have that many eyeballs on your product, then sponsors go, hey, wait a minute, what's going on over here? I need to look. Yeah, okay. So now you can start to generate more revenue, because you've got how many thousands of people watching your product, going to your live games. So now selling your ad boards is like, well, you've got this many people watching, and then you can turn around your analytics and go, okay, well, this is what my Twitch channel right now is what they're doing. This is what my Twitch channel is turning in terms of, eyeballs watching games. I personally talked to Chris here in Orlando. I said, we should be talking with a local, like, here we call it the CW. It's like ABC, NBC. NBC has an affiliate station locally, and it's called the CW. I said, we should do a contract and televise all of our home games. Televise every one of them. Put them on that streaming platform. Put them on that. So it's on television, because now sponsors go, oh, they're on TV. Oh, I can see them on TV. Look, oh, wow, look, the house is packed. Wow, this is okay. Now we got something going on. So now your sponsorships become easy to sell. Now you're able to pay players more. Your product on the floor is good. So marketing drives people inside. The people inside drive your corporate sales. It all works together, but it has to start with marketing. If these clubs have to spend proper money in marketing to drive people inside and make it seem like a bigger product. And then once you're starting to go, we've got 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 people coming to our games on average. Now ESPN goes,
that's right.
What's going on here? I want to look at this. Now we have something that we can start to put
That's
on
absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
So I'm a big believer in indoor soccer.
Here in San Diego, there's a
by the way, love Phil.
No,
Phil Salvaggio, class gentleman. And that guy, man, does he put his money where his mouth is. He's building an arena, right?
No kidding.
He's building his own arena.
Absolutely.
Phil is building his own arena. And I'm like, that's a brilliant move, Phil, because look, you're going to control the revenue, right? You're going to control, you're going to make all your money from your food and beverage. He's going to he'll charge his own team rent. He should, and I bet he does. He'll control the staffing company. He'll control parking. It's he's shrewd, man. He's smart. He's a smart guy.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. and it's also interesting too because in San Diego there's a minor league hockey team called the San Diego Gulls that is an affiliate to the Anaheim Ducks, the NHL team up in Anaheim called the Ducks. Okay, and they're kind of like a farm team to the Ducks. And the Gulls play in the same venue as the Sockers at the same time as the Sockers during the same season as the Sockers. And they pull. This is okay. So forgive me a little bit. I'm going to get a little bit of kind of off the wall here a little bit, but this is
would be unheard of on an indoor show going off the wall, right?
Right.
Hey.
This is hockey, ice hockey in San Diego, California. Okay, you get the drift.
We have hockey in Orlando, Florida.
Okay,
and
but
ice.
this is ice hockey in San Diego, California, and they're drawing 9,000 fans in the same venue at the same time of the year over the same season, where the San Diego Sockers aren't getting 2,000. And oh, by the way, the Gulls don't have 16 championship banners hanging from the freaking rafters either. So
why are they? Do you ever ask yourself why is that happening?
There's clearly a reason, right?
I'd ask, what's their marketing? What are they doing to draw people into that arena to come watch their product?
Right.
What are they doing in the market?
I mean, if you think about it, from the game that's being played, as far as hockey is concerned, these guys are second division hockey players playing. Okay. Whereas in the terms of indoor soccer, the Sockers are not second division soccer players. I mean, they are first division indoor soccer players. And like I said, and oh, by the way, they're carrying these banners, that spread all the way back to the late 80s or the early 80s. So,
but it's about making those players, the San Diego Sockers players, go into Dallas, go into Baltimore, go into Kansas City, go into Utica. It's about making those players household names in your market. Boris Pardo, let's put him on billboards. Craig Childs.
Absolutely.
Who's Craig Childs? Look how many goals that guy scored. By the way, another class man. I met him after we played, and I was like never more impressed. Good guy.
I love him.
And I mean, he's the king of goal scorers right now in the MSL. He needs to be on a billboard, like a Escoto billboard. Let's make these guys household names in San Diego. Let's bring people out these games, but it starts with marketing. You've got to put aggressive marketing campaigns out.
And see, that's where the early team, at least here in San Diego, was able to benefit, because that's exactly what they did with Julie V. I mean, that he was the marquee player. He was, interviewed all the time. They had the front page of the sports page had a picture of Julie V, with his arms up after the goal. I mean, it was every single game. And they made him into a star. They absolutely made him into a star. He was everyday conversation name. He was as well known as Steve Garvey was.
Exactly. Growing up in Tampa, the Rowdies players were just as big, if not bigger, than the Buccaneer players. Just as big, if not bigger, and well known throughout the community. But when you're drawing, and in Tampa, when you're putting in Tampa, so outdoor soccer, when you're putting like 30, 40, 50,000 people in a stadium for a game, news is going to come out. So back to MASL or indoor soccer, if you're putting 9, 10,000 people, now the news media also goes, that's an event. We've got to be there to cover this. Now you're starting to get paper coverage, television coverage. You've got billboards going. You got your games on television. And you're generating more revenue. You're generating more fans. You're selling more merch. Everything in the game then goes to a different level. Everything goes to a different level. And that's, I think it's attainable in major arenas in MASL.
For me personally, and you touched on this a few minutes ago. For me personally, one of the biggest frustrations is, how do I take my passion for the game and get it to people that aren't already fans? So MASL Off the Wall is we have 8.8, 8,800 people, members on that page, and every single one of those people are already fans. So anything that I put out there, I'm kind of preaching to the choir, right?
Right.
So how do I take this and move it forward? Now I have a few other outlets that I use, including my own personal stuff, but because I have people that cross over that are on MASL Off the Wall and also are part of my own social media. But then I also have a lot of people that are on my social media that only know me from other things, my church activity or my high school friends or something like that, right? So there's a little bit of that crossover that I can use, but that's one of the frustrating things for myself. And one of the things that I love about Twitch, as many complaints as there are of it, and I'm not the biggest fan of it, but one of the things that I love about it is that it does reach non-fans. There's a whole bunch of people that scroll through that because it's a gaming center rather than a sports outlet. And there's a whole bunch of gamers that will be strolling through and they'll see the game and they'll start watching the game, and you see them in the chat. They'll come in and they'll say, "Hey, I've never seen this before. What's going on with this?" So Tom, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing, because in the last few years, the MASL. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. So your involvement with the USL puts you right into the middle of a complete understanding and knowledge of firsthand of the outdoor pyramid that exists in American soccer, starting with MLS. Okay, now that doesn't exist in indoor soccer. I mean, MASL has its own little pyramid going on with MASL, MASL2, MASL3.
Yep.
Then you've got MLIS, then you've got NISL, and there's obviously, and see, I want to make this clear. I understand why the marketing goes on the way it does in some of these markets that have decided not to be associated with the MASL, because if they don't have whatever it takes, whether it's money or venue or roster or whatever, to compete in the top echelon of MASL, then they don't want to necessarily market themselves as a second division team in that marketplace. They can say, I'm part of the NISL, I'm part of MLIS, and this is and this is what we are, and irrespective of how that compares to the MASL. But how do you think this whole thing is going forward in the health for the league that you're a part of, the NISL, and anything you might want to comment about the MLIS and the MASL and what they're doing? Besides the fact also, and mention this too, because the one of the things that's really positive about the NISL is, of course, the men and women divisions that are going on.
I gotta tell you, I had never worked with a women's team before, and I had no expectation of anything going in.
Gotcha.
As much as I loved working with the guys, I had so much fun working with the women's team. Right. I mean, they were sponges, and they just soaked up everything you wanted to give them about indoor soccer, and they invested themselves in it, and they wanted to become good. In fact, my favorite story happened after our season. Our season ends, and the ladies, they don't want to stop playing, so they make a team and they go play in a co-ed division indoors locally, and they wipe the floor with every single team, because now they know how to press, they know patterns, they know top of box, top of arc, they know how to play power plays, they know how to play man down, they know how to play sixth attacker. And it's frustrating, and guys are queuing up trying to beat them.
Oh, and that's fun.
That is one of the most, I absolutely love them. And I got to tell you, I was involved in some brawls with the women's team. Man, when they go at it, they play hard. The ladies play hard. I got to tell you, they don't back down. I saw some of the hardest hits I've ever seen on the boards in women's games, because they don't back down. It's like 100 miles an hour, and neither of them are stopping. And here come the boards. bang. I mean, and they'll get back up, and you bitch,
Wow,
you bitch, and then they're going. And man, I got to tell you, the intensity in the women's game and the competitiveness in the women's game is admirable. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so that I enjoyed.
mentioned,
And yeah, go ahead.
I mentioned to you before we came online, my involvement with some of the women's teams here in San Diego. One of the things that I noticed right away is that when they encounter a situation on the field of some kind of a collision or something like that, you never, and I mean never, see a lady take anything that could even be remotely considered as a dive. I mean,
No.
if they fall down because they were freaking knocked down. I mean, but you never see the ladies do anything that could be considered a dive.
And let me tell you what else you don't see. They're way more mature than us guys. Us guys are babies.
Okay.
You rarely ever, if ever, see them like gathering around a referee and like complaining, arguing, yelling, screaming. You don't see that. You don't see that largely in the women's game.
Oh, right.
You don't see it,
right.
And so that's why I tell them, like, they're so much more mature than us guys. So much more mature.
Yeah.
But I of course I want to still remain in indoor soccer. So Andrew Haynes starting the Central Florida Crusaders, approaching me is a chance for me to get back involved in indoor soccer. And of course I jumped at the chance. A lot of our players from the Seawolves were still living here, so it was easy to get them to come play. And so they understand the game already. So that gave us a leg up going in. And we had a really good season with the guys. I think we were unbeaten going into like the last 2 games, and we ended up 12-2. We ended up being crowned the champions, but proud. I was really proud. The ladies team ended up finishing second, and we had a lot of injuries. Knee injuries are something that's very prevalent, not only in indoor, but especially with ladies. There's something about their knees, and we suffered, I think, four torn ACLs, and then I had to deal with something else, which I've never had to deal with. One of the players got pregnant during the season. And that happens. Hey, it happens. And lovely girl, and they've had their baby now, and what a great family. And but she had to stop playing because she got pregnant. And then the off season, we've had 2 more pregnancy. So I've had to replace some. So different things you have to deal with. But them finishing second despite all they had to go through was great. And I met some really lovely people. The players up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, great people. Corey Adamson was running the Memphis team, and I know Corey. I coached Corey when he was 9 years old in Clearwater, Florida. And so when Everton asked if we wanted to take him on loan here in 2019 with the Seawolves, I said yes. And Corey and I started to work together. And so he coached the Memphis team, and he had Peter Sliwa, and we went at it, man. We had some great games against each other. And it's so much fun because Corey really knows the indoor game like the back of his hand. And it's my hope that Corey gets a chance to coach in MASL, because he's going to be a great coach in MASL. Whoever gives him a chance, he's going to be a great coach in MASL. There's no doubt about it.
All right. Let me ask you a couple of that some might consider kind of the hard question. And if I'm stepping over the line, just don't answer the question.
Yeah. If I suddenly disappear, you know why.
One thing is, what happened with the ownership in Orlando? What was it about?
You're talking Seawolves?
Okay.
You're talking Orlando Seawolves?
Yeah.
So, look,
what actually happened with that ownership situation, man?
Yeah, look, here's the deal. And I'll preface this by saying nobody is perfect, right? And I'm a judge of no one. Chris got into a financial situation where money went missing. And like a lot of money went missing, and he just disappeared overnight. Said, claimed some type of illness, some type of something, and he just disappeared. And the guys that had invested didn't have all their paperwork in line. They didn't have all their corporate documents signed. They didn't have, so they all lost a lot of money. Credit cards were charged incorrectly. So by the time I got involved, which is Andrew, they'd asked Andrew to come in and the NISL had come in. I think Phil had helped put in money to keep the Orlando Seals going. Shelley in St. Louis.
That's right. That's right.
I think how come I keep forgetting his name, in Milwaukee, and also in Tacoma. So a lot of teams put money towards keeping the Seals up and running so that you wouldn't have a hole in the middle of your season. However, they also allowed all the players that were there could leave and go to different teams. Gotcha. So by the time I got the team, there were 9 players left. So we literally had to rebuild the Seawolves from in the middle of the season from nothing. I was meeting players going to Kansas City for our first game. My first game back in our first game, I was meeting players in the airport. Hey, how are you? Jack, how you doing, DJ? Nice to meet you. And having to put it all together. So it took us a while to get going. And then when Corey came on board, we finally started to get things going. Gotcha. And then COVID hit. We were going to win our first game, and I was so excited. Right. Games were getting tighter, closer. We were getting better. The players were understanding. They were believing. And it took a while to build the chemistry. But that's ultimately what happened. It was just, and again, I'm not a judge. I don't know why he did it. He's paid his price. He's paid his debt to society. So good on him. I have nothing. I don't want to say anything ill or bad about anybody because it's just not, I don't think that's right. Right. What happened. I'm sorry for the people that were involved that got hurt. Got financially hurt. But we move on, and I hope that he's a better person. I hope, he's learned something from it. It goes down for me as another one of those. I could write a book about the crazy goings on in indoor soccer and the travel. And I got stories. About traveling in MASL and indoor soccer, man. Oh my goodness. Travel.
So let me angle it to another, perhaps kind of tough one. I don't know. But in terms specifically of the NISL, what happened to the postseason last year and why did it cancel?
So I think there were some contract disputes between the arena and ownership that I think had to go to a legal end. And because it had to go to a legal end, I think the boards and turf were held up, is what I think. I was never really told, but I think the boards and turf were held up, so we couldn't host the final. It was going to be down here in Orlando, but we didn't have boards and turf, so it just became too late. It became too late to do it. So they just decided, look, instead of moving everybody, which was a wise decision, we're not going to bring everybody down here for nothing. We're just going to say, hey, we're going to stop now. We're going to deal with this in a legal way. I think there were, I think there were disputes between how much was charged and what should have been charged, and it went down a legal channel. So, and then sometimes that happens.
So how is the?
I don't blame ownership in NISL for doing what they did.
Gotcha.
They had to protect themselves as a business, and that's ultimately what they had to do. Yeah, it didn't allow us to play a final, and we all wanted to. All the players wanted to.
Of course,
we were all excited to, but we also had to understand that sometimes business will get in the way, and I support the NISL and their ownership for what they had to do to stand up for themselves in a legal way in court and get the situation resolved.
So following that, the next obvious segue kind of is this season. How is this season looking? I mean, you guys have your first game here just like a week or so, right?
Right. Yeah, we go to a new team, the Magic City SC, Birmingham, Alabama. They play out of Birmingham, Alabama. So I'm excited to go up there. I've been in Alabama a lot for soccer, for outdoor, but I've never been there for indoor. So, and it's their first game ever as a franchise. So excited for them. We return a lot of players that we've had from our team last season with the guys. So, that's kind of plug and play, like it's like picking right back up. We return a lot of ladies on our ladies side, and we're adding some really good, exciting players. Now that we've had a season, a lot of players have had a chance to go, hey, indoor soccer with girls. Word's getting around, so now more players want to come out. And in Orlando, we have University of Central Florida, Rollins College, Stetson University. So we have a lot of universities that play that have good ladies teams. So more and more players are coming out. So the level of our ladies team is really stepping up this season. So I'm just excited to pick that back up and continue their learning curve, because I said, where you came from, which was you had no knowledge of indoor soccer, to now you've had a season and you've taken a big step. Well, now you've got this base of knowledge. We can take the next step up and keep adding to your repertoire. And it really honestly takes a player about 3 full seasons to really grasp and understand indoor soccer. So I was with JP. JP plays us, who played with the Tropics with the guys team, and he goes, "Oh man," he goes, "I'm enjoying playing with you. You're a really good coach." And I'm like, "No, I'm adequate now. I've had more than 3 seasons in indoor soccer. I get it. I get it now, and I'm more adequate." And I still watch guys, like Giuliano, and I watch Phil's team, and I'm learning this game every single day. And watch Everton, who I like. One of the guys, he and Mark Litton, I had a really good relationship with. When we would play, we would go out after games and sit down, and they are just salt of the earth guys. And Giuliano, I wish I could have spent more time with him, because I think he's another class gentleman, and really, really smart coach, good coach. So just some great guys.
I saw Mark Litton at the exhibition match the futsal match that the Sockers and the Strikers put on in Ontario, and Mark was there, and he came over and said hello, and said, I love him as well. The only other time that I've gotten a chance to meet him was the MASL championship game that was held, the single match that was held in Minnesota. I'm sorry, Milwaukee. Versus the Flash a few years ago. I went to the game and I was able to meet him there. I agree with you. He's a quality guy. Keith
Tozer, I'm so glad he's running. He's commissioner. He's a guy who really got me started. He was brought in to help he was an advisor with the Seawolves, and just like a player. And I
remember that.
Yeah. And I tell this to players all the time. When you're a player, the first time you ever play indoor soccer, like proper indoor soccer, your first game, you walk off and you go, what just happened?
Right.
I have no idea what just happened.
Right.
And I felt like learning from Keith, I kept asking the same questions over and over again. I'm like, wait, can you explain this to me again? Like, where this guy's checking in and show it now. Then, man, he would talk circles around me, because he understands the game so well, and he's got a great futsal knowledge. I mean, the guy is, one of the greatest, great player in the league, absolutely. In NISL, and then as a coach, hello. And I got a chance to work with Alex too. His son, I loved working with Alex. It was just so getting a chance to get indoctrinated indoor with Keith Tozer was,
how cool.
It's invaluable to someone like me.
So how is it working out? I mean, one doesn't necessarily want to increase based on someone else's decrease. I get that, and I know that you do too. But with the MASL no longer in Florida, how does that working out for the NISL teams that are there?
We're filling a void, but again, I think, and I've talked to you about this, we need more marketing. I mean, it's hard. Nobody, who knows, we're existing. We did okay. We probably, our first season, we were playing out at we moved, which was good. Andrew put us at the University of Central Florida Edition Financial Arena, which is a beautiful arena. Great for the game. A little on the small side, think like Baltimore size a little bit, in terms of like
Gotcha.
the dimensions. So unique, and
right.
you have to. There's a way that we had to playing on a smaller surface versus when you go to the hockey floors, and so that's a different type of game. So press becomes really important on these small floors, and then being able to play out of your 3-2-2-3 zone and becomes a little more important. You still have your moments to press, but you can't press when you're playing on these really big floors because you'll just run yourself out.
Right.
So they need more marketing, honestly, just to let people know that the product is here, and to drag them inside. So I tell you, it's like the biggest thing for me. I always ask them, how much money do you have to spend on marketing? And now I would also ask, what's your social media department like? I mean, you got to think, like teams like the NFL teams have whole departments that are just social media. That's all they do. MLS as well. They have people that are designated to just running their social media accounts. When I talk marketing, I'm like, how much money are you putting towards your social media? How much money are you putting toward, billboard, television, radio? Like, what's your marketing budget? Because if you're not going to market, who's going to know you're there?
Nobody.
What was that old commercial? A bad thing happens when you don't market. Nothing.
Right. Nothing.
And
it's super true too, because if nobody, one of the things that I run into among a lot of my friends that I'll talk with, say I haven't seen them in a couple of years, and my high school has an annual reunion every season, every year, and it's an open reunion, so it's not just my class, it's everybody that's ever gone to that high school, and it's an open reunion. And so I'll go down there, and people, I'll wear the Sockers, shield on my shirt and stuff, and the people will ask, the San Diego Sockers, you mean they're still around? And yeah, I mean, they remember.
That's what you don't want to hear.
I know they remember back in the day. They remember the championships under Ron Newman, but they don't know that the team. All they remember is, didn't they fold? Well, yeah. In fact, they folded twice, and it broke my heart both times. But they're back in full swing, and they're competing at the top level of the game. And yeah, they've gotten a couple of championships here lately. And I become this sounding board, for trying to promote the game. And check it out. Just come to my social media. You'll see that this is all happening, and then we'll get to the game.
Guys like you are invaluable to that organization. That you're such a staunch advocate, that you promote them every chance you get, and you promote indoor soccer, which I love. I know your heart is San Diego Sockers, but you love indoor soccer.
Well,
but that's why I answered your question about what does Central Florida. Go ahead.
Right. Oh, I was going to say, Tom, actually.
There's JP. JP Reyes.
There he is. So actually, what's happened over the last few years, and I've got a couple little cliches here. One is that my second favorite team is whoever is on the field versus the San Diego Sockers. That team, whoever's on the field facing the San Diego Sockers, they are my second favorite team, because if they don't exist, then the Sockers don't exist. You have to have competition in order for this to happen. Okay. Secondly, whereas the San Diego Sockers are clearly my favorite team. I mean, I've been dying for these guys since I was 19 years old. Dinosaurs used to cruise around back then. You remember that?
Yeah, you and I are about the same age, I think. So yeah, we probably high-fived the same T-Rexes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But what I've come to learn is that I love the sport more than I love the team. I have a favorite team and I love them to death, but I wouldn't want to see. It breaks my heart when a team is financially fails or no longer is taking the field. It breaks my heart when, at the same time though, my mind is square as far as you don't want to bring in too damn many teams too fast, because then you have bad ownership, and then you have a bad situation, and you have too much attrition. And like most professional sports around America, I mean, if you look at the NFL, when was the last time a team folded?
No, it doesn't happen.
No.
No.
So
way too much money there.
Right. So I mean, and it doesn't have to be, I mean, I don't have to go to the NFL. I mean, I can go to the NHL. I mean, when was the last time an NHL team folded? I mean, they might have moved. When was the last time an NBA team folded? Yeah. It doesn't happen.
No, but you have to look at that level of ownership. I mean, those are guys with those are billionaires. Those are guys with big B's.
So I get that.
But I love the people that own indoor soccer teams because they're helping to keep the sport alive.
No kidding.
But it takes money. For me, and that's why here in Orlando we're filling a void, but we need more money, we need more ownership, we need people who are going to put the right investment in to first. And like I said, first it's marketing. And again, I'll go back to I think it was Brian Roth in Kansas City. Whatever they're doing, watch it. Utica as well. Whatever they're doing, you need to watch what they're doing. And I'd love to know, but that guy, hats off, my man, because you're doing an awesome job. Because you walk in and like I said, now I'll reiterate this, and this is what it's all about. Marketing drives the people inside to watch your product. And when you've got a sold out crowd, you will look at that and go, I am at an event. I am at something. I've invested my money. And the worst thing people could do, worst thing ever, is to give away their product. They call it papering the house.
Yeah.
Where they don't. You can't do that, because the minute you give away your product, it has no value.
That's
and
right.
If you ever we've all done, if you buy a ticket to something, a movie, a high school play, you're invested. Right. You're going to go. I bought that ticket. I'm going to go. Right. But if someone hands you a ticket and says, hey, here's a free ticket, maybe you go, maybe you don't. But if you don't go, I've not lost anything. I'm not invested. You want to get people invested. You want to get them to go, I've bought my ticket. I'm in. And when they get in there, you got to entertain them. And the product will entertain them. There's no doubt about that. The product will entertain them. But put on the show, man. Put on the show. Let's do the big, pregame introductions and the light shows. And, let's build a show around this thing. Let's entertain people from the time they walk into this place to the time they walk out of this place. And with a full crowd, they go, man, I'm coming back. I'm coming back to see this. But it takes marketing to drive them in. You get them in there like that. You fill them up. Now your sponsors are coming out in the woodwork because you got lots of eyeballs on your product. So that's where I want to get to. But it takes money to do that. Billboards aren't cheap. Television commercials aren't cheap. Radio ads aren't cheap. But it has to be done to draw people into, so that people know you're there to draw them in, and you build a new audience. Like probably the guys like San Diego Sockers have a lot of the same people that come over and over and over and over again. Baltimore Blast, over and over and over again. Milwaukee Wave, over and over and over again. The sad thing is, eventually that audience dies. They die. You've got to generate and build. You've got to. Baseball was going through this. Baseball's audience was dying, literally dying.
Literally dying.
Now they've done a pitch clock to start. Wait, these younger people, they're into TikTok and reels and vines, and they don't like to spend a lot of time. That's why soccer is becoming popular. They get in, they get out. And indoor soccer is built for a young audience. Marketing. So yeah, we're filling a void, but we could be doing a whole lot better. I don't know. I'd love to see if there's a chance. I'm still working behind the scenes. I'd love to get an MASL team back in Florida, and I'd like to see maybe a few. Because I think you need to get some regional partners and regional rivalries going. And I just believe in the product, and I believe it's marketable. I believe it's more than watchable, and it's got a place in the American sports landscape.
And I mean, from the standpoint of an investor, in South Florida, Central or South Florida, the current the current situation, I don't mean the current situation, but the just past situation, specifically the MASL, neither Orlando or Lakeland brought that many fans. So in both cases, and of course, I know it's talking directly to what you're saying. The marketing wasn't there. I mean, I know that's exactly what you're talking about.
This is well, and you're in Lakeland. No offense, love the Tropics. Had some great rivalries with them. Clay Roberts, the guy, and the Doc who owned the Tropics. Guy put his money in. That guy really invested to try and win a championship. With the Tropics. He gave Clay the money to put together a really strong team. When you look at Reggett, Drew Ruggles, they had Gordy Gerson. You just start going through the list of players. They put together a strong roster. But it's in Lakeland. Nobody's going to Lakeland. Tampa's your market.
Oh, gotcha.
Tampa's your market, or Orlando's your market. Nobody goes to Lakeland.
Between the two.
No offense. I'm not trying, but being honest, nobody goes to Lakeland. It's in the middle and nobody goes there. So that's why you don't draw many people and you don't market. So if you don't market and you're living in a place where not too many people go, what do you expect? You get a very little crowd. You get, 700, 800, 500, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,200 people. I don't know, not as many as you should, but move it to Tampa, put marketing in it. I've always said I would approach the Lightning organization and go, how would you like to have an MASL franchise? Because the Lightning, they already have everything in place to do it. They already have ticket sales staffs, corporate sales staff, media staff. They have everything there. It's one of the beautiful things about Utica. Utica is they had everything in place with the hockey team was there. One of my favorite games I ever played was going to Utica. Sold out arena. Man, that beer garden was packed. And then the people that left the seats to buy the beer garden seats, they resold the seats that they were going to sit in. And the beer garden is where the sin bins were. That's where you wait out. And man, you're like, there's no glass. The players in there, and you got people right next to you, like slugging beers. I'm like, there's gonna be a fight. There's gonna be a fight over there. There's just bound to be a fight. Someone's gonna have too much beer. They're gonna say something. It didn't happen. But one of my favorite places to go see, and it was packed. It's sold out. And man, what an atmosphere. And the hockey team, their marketing was really good. And I'm sure the hockey team has a lot to do because everything's already built there, right?
Right. The infrastructure is already in place.
So put a pro forma together, sit down, show someone how to operate. And these are smart people, approach an NHL team. How would you like to have an MASL franchise? This is how much it costs to run one, put together the business plan and show it to them. I would go to, if I was them, if I was the Florida Tropics, I'd have gone to Tampa. I wouldn't have messed in Lakeland. I'd have gone to Tampa. Orlando, there's a chance to do it. It just, again, there's a way to do it. There's a right way to do it. And you've got to find the right business partners that have the right kind of investment and will put the right money behind it so that you can build something proper and build an audience. Because that's what it takes. It takes fans in the stands, right? Because they're the ones that are going to buy the merch. They're the ones that are going to buy the hot dog and they're the ones that are going to pay your salary. And then again, you can start getting your marketing. You can start getting more of your corporate dollars brought in. And that's how you're going to grow a franchise.
And from the fans' point of view, it's kind of a double investment because the first investment is the one you're talking about, where, I didn't get a free ticket. I paid for the ticket. I'm going to go to the game. I'm going to take in the event. I'm going to be a part of this event. And wow, was that fun? But then the second investment is emotional. Because now the person embraces the team as their team. They start buying merch. They start wearing the scarves. They start carrying the hats, and doing the whole thing. And then there's that emotional investment. So one of the problems that I think has happened over the years with indoor soccer in general is that people have made that investment. I know this happened to me. Made that investment and then the team folded. And it's like, now my emotional investment, to heck with my financial one, I've already committed. I'm already budgeting my season tickets every year. That's a thing. But now my emotional investment, my heart is broken. My heart is broken. I'm mean, now what do? I take this and I turn it into what? I go watch dog racing. I mean, what do I do with this emotional? I mean,
if you're good at dog racing, you might make some money. That might help that emotional side. If you're good at the dogs, and then if you're really good while you're at the dogs, you could be playing some poker, and then you might be betting the horses somewhere else,
right.
And then you're right for Gamblers Anonymous, right? So that could happen.
But yeah, so it's the broken heart, I think, that has made a lot of people walk away from. How many broken leagues or franchises, teams that are in that graveyard of indoor soccer. That, I mean, we all want to see. We all want to see the Pittsburgh Spirit come back. We all want to see the New York Arrows come back. We all want to see
Cleveland Crunch, and they're back kind of. They're back kind of.
Right, they're in the MLIS.
Right.
But the there's so many. I mean, it goes on and on and on. There's
do you remember the old Canton Invaders?
I do.
Now I'm going to go American Indoor Soccer Association. Louisville Thunder, Canton Invaders, the Tampa Bay Rays were in there. Milwaukee Wave was in there. Chicago Power, Fort Wayne. There was a Fort Wayne team too. Fort Wayne, it was Indiana. I can't remember their name, but Fort Wayne. No, all of those, like there are so many. You're hitting on something like the emotional investment is important because that drives you back. Now you're bought in. Once you get that level, you're like, man, you know who the players are, you know who the other teams are, you know who their players are. You're following it. You're looking at the standings. You're like, how are we doing in the playoff race? But you have a responsibility as an owner to those people. I always say, when you get to that level, and I said this to Flavio, who owned Orlando City at the time. I said, you may own Orlando City, but the real owners are the people that are sat in those stands. Because when you sell the team, they're still going to be here. When that player moves on,
that's right,
they're still going to be here. When that coach gets fired and moves on or retires, they're still going to be here. Those are the people. You are running this team for them. You're the caretaker. You've got their hopes and dreams in your hand. And it's your responsibility to put a good product out there and to entertain them and do everything right, because they're the ones that truly own the franchise. So
it's really interesting, Tom, because when you're watching that kind of emotional investment, oftentimes the fan will move that emotion to a given player or two, and then if that player gets moved to another team, that fan, so it becomes a really interesting psychological sort of investigation, because the fan loves their team, they love the brand, they love their home team, but they still love this player. And they never wanted that player to leave. I mean, they wanted that player to stay forever. And now who's the bad guy? Is the player the bad guy because he's a traitor, or is the owner a bad guy because he traded away my player?
Well, the answer is it's a business, and
absolutely.
Yeah. When you're a player, your careers are short, and you've heard this before. It's their job to make as much money as they possibly can in a short amount of time.
That's
and
correct.
Sometimes it fits in your budget. Sometimes it doesn't fit in your budget. And it just becomes a business transaction. And sometimes they move on because maybe the coach wants to go in a different direction. Every time you bring in a new coach, you bring in somebody that's got a different view on the game, a different view on how they want to build their team. And maybe this player that you've invested in for a long time doesn't quite fit, and they have to move on. Or maybe it's a contract dispute. Maybe they want more money than what you feel their production really will earn, what they should get.
Right.
And it's time for them to move on. So really it just becomes a business transaction at that point, which stinks for the fan, because they don't care about any of that. They don't care about the money. They don't care about that, nor should they have to. They're emotionally invested. It comes from their heart, their soul. So, but that's why you never forget those players. They become, when they show back up and they're playing with the other team, you can still applaud them because they played their heart out for you. they loved the team, you know, they loved you, and you can still appreciate them and wish them well, you know. So
Right.
it just becomes a business at that point, and that's the part
I
that
mean,
sucks.
I know that there's a lot of that going on up in Ontario with the Empire Strikers right now in the MASL.
Well, Frank
Because
Taiu, I mean, you know, he leaves. How big is that a loss? It's a huge loss.
right, and so when Paul Wright came in and took over the reins as head coach, he did. I mean, they've kept a few of their players, but they really did a major purge, just getting rid of a ton of their players. And a lot of them were, you know, Pacheco went to Baltimore and Taiu went to Utica. And I mean, it's all over the map, you know, and so it's really difficult for some of those. I mean, I know some of these fans, and it's like, should I support? You know, I'll get a private message, you know, and it's like, should I continue to support the Empire Strikers because they've gotten rid of my whole team? And it's like, it's still your team, buddy.
Look, somebody else is going to fill the laundry. Okay.
Yeah.
And someone else is going to play hard for you. They're going to wear their heart in their sleeve, and they're going to try and win for the Empire Strikers, and they're going to play for you, and they're going to cheer for you. And you'll find a new person, a new player that you can attach to, and a guy who's going to catch your attention. You go, oh, I like the way this guy plays. This guy's so technical, or this guy's fiery, or this guy, you know, it'll, and you know, the reality is sometimes in indoor soccer, and look, let's face it, MLS teams operate in the red. Okay. You know how many sports teams operate in the red? Like, sports teams aren't necessarily a moneymaker. They're not. I mean, NFL, let's put them aside. But MLS teams run in the red. So sometimes an owner just goes, look, I've lost a ton of money here, and I need to clear the books a little bit. I need to bring my payroll down a bit. I can't be spending all this money now. So that's why I say it takes really, really deep pockets if you're gonna, you know, not every average Joe can own and operate a professional sports franchise.
I mean, the San Diego Padres this last season, they were something of a chump in the fact that they all this, you know, incredible, you know, hype with the spending and the roster and everything like that, $200 million roster of payroll, and then at the end of the season, because they didn't produce, the ownership is saying they're going to drop a fourth of that payroll next season to $150,000, $1 million. Now that's a ton of money, of course, and it's going to still keep a lot of, you know, major players on the roster. But the fans that thought that this was going to be another Boston Red Sox or Los Angeles Dodgers, as far as what they're willing to spend every single year, they've got another thing coming, because that's just not, the team has to roll back. They didn't get the production that they expected to get, so they have to roll back.
Economics is just a fact of sports. I mean, it is a business. It's sports entertainment, but it's a business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, so with indoor soccer, but you got to put the right investment behind it first. And that way you can build a solid foundation to grow on. And then you're not going to have to worry so much. Yeah, everybody has to look at their budgets and say to their general managers, their coaches, you know, hey, your player budget for this year is X. And then it becomes not about how much money you have and you know, how expensive your players are. Imagine who you bring in. Are you smart? Have you really done your homework? Have you looked at players? Do you know what kind of style you want? And do you know who's going to fit that? Because you might not have to spend all that kind of money to build a good squad and a team that's going to be playoff ready, and a team that could be, by the time you get in the playoffs, is gelled and is going to make a real run. How smart are you with that money? How smart are you spending that money? For me, San Diego, real smart. I enjoy watching San Diego play. Defensively, so good. Defensively, so good, so sound. And I think that's probably what makes them so good for me, is like defensively, they're just so good. And then it turns into transitions and they get goals. Monterey looking good too. Boy, I'll tell you what, Monterey's looking really good. Monterey, San Diego, I don't know. Might be Monterey, San Diego for me. I don't know. Maybe Utica's going to come put something in there, but I think San Diego is going to be there, and probably Monterey at the end for me. But yeah, it's a sports business, and sometimes financial decisions have to be made. I don't know if that's what happened in Empire. I have no idea what went on in Empire. No clue. Not going to tell anybody I know anything about what they did. But you know, reality is, what are their costs and expenses? I don't know. I don't see their P&Ls, but you know, maybe the guy said, look, you know, it's time for me to tighten the belt a little bit. And so some some players had to move on, and we're going to build another team. And but they did bring in Marco Fabian, right?
Yeah, that's right. No,
So
I mean they haven't.
Look at that. I mean, you got to take your hat off that owner and go, well done there, my man.
No kidding. So there's got to be some kind of a conversation. Of course, this is pure speculation, but there's got to be some kind of a conversation as to maybe it wasn't so much the roster cost as much as it was the roster chemistry, as much as maybe maybe it was just the players and the way that this new coach wanted to bring in a different kind of chemistry.
100%. Ian probably looked and said, I've got a way I want to play. I remember Healy doing that in Harrisburg too. He changed, he retooled that roster so quickly when he got there. He had a real idea of what he wanted to do, how he wanted to play there. Look, Utica only shines versus Harrisburg. I know what you're saying. And they started out playing those teams. You're right. But let's see what happens. Give Everton the remainder of the season. He's got a lot of good players. Let's see what happens. I know they had a tough road trip this past road trip, but hey, let's wait and see at the end. I know. And Baltimore's untypical of Baltimore this year. I mean, that's not a typical Baltimore Blast team. I can tell you. I took absolute beatings when I went to Baltimore with the Seawolves, man. And Danny Kelly and those guys, and Vinny Dantas and Roque and Donatelli and Vanzella, and I'm like, Jesus, this is a monster team. It didn't help. It didn't help us one time in the second year. I'll tell you, this is a true story. So, second year, we're supposed to play Baltimore. Well, they decide that they're going to fly us out the day of the game. So in the morning, we have a 7:30 flight out of Orlando International to Baltimore. So we get to the airport, 5:30 in the morning. There's a mechanical problem with the plane.
Oh, shoot.
Uh-oh. So I'm on the phone with Josh Schaub and the guys at Lee. I'm going, there's a problem here.
Right.
They're telling us there's a mechanical problem with the plane, and right now there's no guarantee that there's going to be another flight to get us to Baltimore on time. So now the players, they've been there since 5:30. We are sat in the airport. It's now 1:30 in the afternoon. No flight. Nothing we can get on. So the league finds flights out of Tampa, which is hour and 45 minutes away. But it's at 4:30. Right. It's 1:30, and we got to be for a 4:30 flight. So they get us a car service. We pile in these cars, haul ass to Tampa, get to the airport just in time. So now we're flying. Well, a couple hours flight, 6:30. Game's due to start at 7 o'clock in Baltimore, and we're landing. They've got Ed Hale's got fans coming to pick us up.
No way.
We're getting in fans' cars, man.
No way.
And we're getting there. And it's like now 7:30, 7:45. And this game's supposed to start at 7. It's getting close to 8 when we're actually getting to the arena. And Ed Hale's like, hey, Tom, do you think you guys could hurry up a little bit? And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, we've been up since the butt crack of dawn to get on a plane. We've had to wait in an airport until 1:30. Then we had to haul us to Tampa to get our flight out. We get here. Now we got to hustle up and play. We got absolutely smashed. I couldn't fault the players one bit. We got absolutely wasted on that trip. I will never, ever forget that trip. And I'm like, you look at the players and you go, what do you want me to say? I mean, preparation for it was horrible. No preparation.
Had you played the day before, or did you actually schedule yourself to fly out the morning of the game?
No, they just didn't want to pay for the hotel. They didn't want to fly us out. It was a budget situation. We were being operated by a lot of different people, and money was what money. There's the business part of it, right? Right. So we didn't get to stay the night before, so they flew us up the day of, and that's what happens. I will tell you, I'm not a big fan of, and I know this bit the Sockers the other day, because they got back to San Diego what time, and then had to turn around and play again in the afternoon.
Yeah, they had like 2 or 3 hours before game time from the time they arrived at the airport.
Listen, we played my first year. we played Kansas City on a Saturday night, 7 o'clock kickoff in Kansas City. We were due to play Milwaukee the next afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Oh man,
in Milwaukee.
Oh man.
All right, and this was the year that the Wave won MASL. So I mean, Ferdinand, Leite, you just keep going through the list. So we finished the game, hopping vans. We're hopping in like cars and vans, and they flew some people up to drive us, driving through the night, freezing cold, and we don't get into Milwaukee until 7:30 in the morning. And we're not in buses. I'm in like a Honda CRV, like these.
So you caravanned all night long?
All night long.
Unbelievable.
The equipment manager drove one. The equipment manager's wife drove one. I think Chris drove one. Like they were trying to find these, and all these players are like, trying to sleep as much as they possibly can. Then we get there and we stay at I forget the name of the hotel, but it was where Jeffrey Dahmer killed his first victim. And I'm like,
you gotta be kidding me.
No, I'm not. I swear to you, I'm not making this up. And
I
ended up staying in a room. Literally, I looked this up because I'm like, I was in a room 1 floor below and 1 room over. I'm like, right over there I'm like, oh, this is creeping me out. And we get in there and you walk in and the whole place, smells like pot. Like, I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if Snoop Dogg, I don't know what, but players all walk in, the place smells of pot. We're all tired and we got to be to the arena by 12, and the Wave, of course, like, oh, we know we're not going to press you. Oh, hell.
Right.
Again,
right.
We got just toasted. That is one of the things I wish that leagues wouldn't do, because that kind of turnaround is not healthy. It's not healthy for players. It makes it almost impossible to pull off a win, and the health and safety of the players as well, because they're tired. They've played the night before. You're risking injury. I wish there could be more time in between. I understand that turnaround can be quick. I understand double headers, but I'd like there to be a day in between. Let the players recover a little bit before. So I know that just hit the Sockers really hard. I saw that and I felt for them, because I remember all the times we had to do it, and I'm going, that's a hard job. You're not going to win that one today. No offense, as good as you are, you're not going to win that one today.
Yeah, it's tough. Every team has to do it. Every team has those kind of
Facebook
schedules.
Ambassador Hotel. That's the one. That's the one. The Ambassador Hotel. I'm like, creep me out, man. I'm like, oh, where am I at? Where have they put me?
The people, by the way, the people that are watching on Facebook, MASL Off the Wall, when you guys come into the chat, the only thing we get as an identifier is Facebook user. So we don't know who you are unless you put it in your actual chat and write it in. If you're watching on Study on Soccer Facebook or Study on Soccer on YouTube, then we do get your name in the chat when you post something, and we know who you are directly. But you can let us know in the chat when you're writing something. Tom, this has been outstanding. I appreciate.
Why did it take so long? Why did it take so long for us to do this?
I know. Well, I mean, oh, okay. So it's Kevin Curtin. So that's it's
wow. He knows.
Yeah, he knows. Awesome. So Tom, thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate this. This has gone on, and I knew it was going to. You and I seem to have a bit of a chemistry, and I really appreciate you, my friend.
I told you we'd end up having to cut this off. We'd still have so much more to talk about, but we'll have to cut it off. Maybe a part 2 sometime down the road. Maybe after NISL season, maybe we'll do a wrap up on MASL, NISL, and that
would be good.
A lot more to talk about.
That would be great. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you allowing me some time on here and time to sit and chat with you and talk about all the fun stuff. And I love MASL, love NISL, love all the indoor soccer fans. We're a close-knit group. I mean, we're all, there's not a lot of us, so we're all in it together, and I just appreciate being here. I had to work for Sudi for us lower level to get some love. Give him love, that Facebook user. He's been popular. He's popping up here a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure that's still Kevin. All right, Tom. Thanks again for joining me today. Tom Traxler, head coach and general manager of the Central Florida Crusaders. I appreciate your time very much, and I've appreciated you since you came onto my radar a few years back. Thanks,
Thank you, sir. My pleasure. Have a good one, everybody.
All right, thanks, man.